All right. Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to tell you about the liver flush. Why we do it, the pros and cons, who should not do it, how to do it, and what to expect. First of all, the liver is a very important organ. It has many functions. Some of the most important are detoxifying things, and I'm going to get back to that in a minute. Bile production, which is key because your liver produces bile stored in the gallbladder to release into the intestines, and that bile is there to break up fats. When fats and food and supplements come through your stomach into the intestine, they're met with bile from the gallbladder, which was produced in the liver. It also produces proteins. Proteins are not just for your muscles, they're also for our enzymes. All the work in the body is done by enzymes. We need vitamins and minerals in order to be cofactors for enzymes. So the fact that the liver produces much of our proteins for us is a major factor in our overall health. Without a well-functioning liver, we're not going to have a well-functioning metabolism or digestion or immune system, since many of those proteins are used in the immune system and part of the detoxification system. Just like the kidneys, the liver also filters out bad stuff from our blood. The liver also converts vitamin D to its active form in the body, and it stores the other fat-soluble vitamins. I always think of them as DEAK, D-E-A and K, and B12. Most of the B vitamins are not stored in the body, but B12 is, particularly in the liver. And of course, liver problems can cause all kinds of symptoms. The most common we'd see in the digestion category: nausea, lack of appetite, pale stool, more common than you think, itching, hair loss, blotchy palms, significant weight loss, weakness and muscle wasting, jaundice, of course, yellowing of the skin or eyes, belly pain and swelling, even edema here in the legs and ankles. And I attribute that to protein deficiency, because you could be eating plenty of protein, but if your liver is not functioning properly, you could still have a protein deficiency, which is one of the main causes of edema. So these symptoms are widespread because the liver is so large and so important. And the concept behind the liver flush is basically to literally flush it out. Whatever needs to come out should come out. And that includes stones, because stones can be formed in the liver. They can be trapped in the gallbladder. They can be trapped in the bile duct. So you can hear of bile stones, gallbladder stones, and less commonly you hear about liver stones. But I'll tell you why in a moment that this is a much bigger problem, I believe, than is currently talked about. And parasites can come out. In fact, I expect them to come out. Most prominently being liver flukes, little trematode worms that live in the liver. But I have also seen other worms come out. I've seen a tapeworm come out once. And if any of these things are in our body, they're going to be slowing us down in some way. These flukes can cause damage to the liver. They might call it cirrhosis. And either way, we don't want parasites in us. We want to get them out. Now, a lot of people might talk about a liver flush with the word detox. In fact, our product here, it's called a 30-day detox. But I like to think of it more as a flush, because though the liver does detox, it's a detox organ. Toxins are not necessarily stored in the liver. They're mostly stored in fat cells, and that's heavy metals as well. So doing the flush allows your liver to work better, but I don't really think of it as a detox by itself. We do want to take all the 90 essential nutrients and everything to support our body's natural detox function, including supporting the liver, so it can do a better job at it. And that, to me, is the main reason for doing the flush. Get all the junk out of it so that it can function better. And we do see some pretty dramatic results with this, by the way, especially in cases that are not getting the expected results from the normal program, which is, of course, taking the 90 essential nutrients and being off the bad foods. If they're not getting the expected results from that, one of the big things I'll be looking at is the liver. And we used to do the liver flush all the time, by the way. I kind of backed away from it during the pandemic. I tried to focus on simpler and cheaper programs. And it worked in the sense that we got a lot more people to get started, but by not talking about the liver flush for the last 4 years, I know there's been a lot of people who did not get the full results they expected. So we normally did this after 3 months on the program, meaning you've topped your body up on the 90 essential nutrients for at least 3 months. And I would even call it 4 months because we start almost everyone with a digestion protocol for the first month and then move them on to the 90 essential nutrients. And it's at that point that I would recommend doing a liver flush because one of the cons is that this is a very tough process on the body. If your body is not ready for it, it could reject it, meaning you could take the concoctions and just throw them up. Or I've seen a handful of people where nothing at all happened. So that is in the risk category here. One risk is you potentially waste the money if your body's not prepared for it. And I'll get back to these packages when we talk about how to do it. But I do want to mention gallstones. If you start looking up on mainstream outlets how likely it is for you to have a gallstone, many of them are going to give you quite a low number, like here, 10%. Well, at least 10% of US adults have gallstones. I've never seen someone who did a liver flush who did not have stones. Most of us don't get checked for stones either, so I don't really know where they're getting these numbers from. I never got tested for gallstones. You probably haven't either. Unless you had some pain in your gallbladder or liver area, then they might have checked you. But chances are most of you have never been checked for it. And stones can form, again, in the liver as well, so looking for them in the gallbladder is not always going to find them. But again, I've never seen somebody do the flush and not have stones come out. Now, warning here, I'm going to show you something graphic. We can see them come out. So this is not a hypothesis here. In fact, I was taught to tell people to use a strainer over the toilet. Go to the dollar store, buy a cheap spaghetti strainer, and throw it out afterwards. Because when you do this flush, a lot of liquid is going to come out of you. And this is not like a regular bowel movement where you can feel things coming out. You might feel some sharp little bits come out, but for the most part, it's liquid. So you're not going to be able to see what comes out unless you use a strainer or a toilet hat, it's called. And this is very commonly what it looks like, a big bowl full of stones. This is actually quite small compared to the ones that I've seen. And even in myself, and forgive me, I couldn't find the pictures. We did take pictures years ago when I did it the first time, about 5 years ago. And I could not believe how much came out of me. I thought to myself, I thought the gallbladder was a very small little thing. How is there that many stones in there? And I believe it was because I had a lot of stones in the liver as well. And I've seen this numerous times. In fact, my friend just did a liver flush the other day, and he said that exact same thing. He said, I had no idea so many stones could fit in the gallbladder. The gallbladder is supposed to be small. Well, yeah, I think his liver was full of them as well. And you should see flukes come out as well, if you have them, which you probably do. Most people do. You can see some other parasites in there as well. And you can see some other debris in there as well. Different colors. This is not uncommon at all. And if you don't use a strainer, you won't see this, but you should feel the difference. The most common thing I hear after the flush is I feel light. Never felt so light. I feel fresh. It's a weird feeling. Hard to describe. And this is even if you're healthy, by the way. When I did this the first time, I was healthy. The 90 essential nutrients already fixed my pains and problems. I didn't have any complaints. And yet a lot came out and I felt a lot better afterward. And this doesn't matter if you're raised on 100% organic food. Stones are caused by nutrient deficiencies as well as processed foods. And parasites can live on organic, fresh produce grown in your backyard just like they can from commercial food. It's not just meat. All types of parasites and eggs can come from all kinds of foods. Some of them do end up living in the liver. And I do believe that the liver flush itself actually does kill other parasites elsewhere in the body, sometimes at least. I can't prove it, but especially when I've seen other worms come out and tapeworm come out, I have to assume that they were flushed from the digestion tract. So that's why we do the flush. The pros are a better functioning liver and getting parasites out and getting stones out because the stones are not going to come out on their own. Unlike a kidney stone, your kidneys will try and force the stones out no matter what. The gallstones are just going to keep growing and growing slowly. They grow very, very slowly, but your body's not going to force them out. And you might not even notice until one day you have severe pains in the gallbladder or liver area on your right side. And you go to the doctor and they say, oh my goodness, we've got to remove your gallbladder right away. You might have no symptoms until that point. So to me, it's a very, very good idea to get them out now. And some people recommend doing the flush every 6 months or a year. I think that's a little bit excessive. I just did my second liver flush 5 years after the first one, and hardly anything came out, hardly any solids, which means that being on the program in general, being on the 90, being off of processed foods, has allowed me to not accumulate stones and parasites. And I think that's about the time frame that I'll continue doing it, every few years or a bit more. So the cons here, I've already mentioned one, that it might not work at all. You might just throw up the concoction and just you might be waiting there for a couple days and nothing at all happens. So in that case, you wasted a bit of money, but it's not a huge deal to me. Another con is a potential risk, which I should tell you about, even though I've never seen it happen or actually heard of it happen. There are some doctors and many health outlets that warn that gallstones could get trapped in the bile duct on their way out. And some people have speculated that if you do a flush, purposefully try and flush the gallstones, they may get stuck. Now, I've looked, but I cannot find an actual case of this happening with a liver flush. I'm sure medically it has happened before where gallstones got stuck in the bile duct, but I've been recommending liver flushes for years to many people, and I also know many other people who also recommend it, and none of us have ever seen this or heard about it. So I can't find a single actual case history where this happened, but it's a risk you should be aware of. You can go to an ultrasound clinic and get high frequency ultrasound or lithotripsy applied to the gallbladder, which should break up the stones and make them easier to pass and give you less risk of them getting stuck. You can also do this for kidney stones, and I do recommend it for kidney stones, by the way, because it will be a lot less painful. But I can't find a real answer if lithotripsy actually breaks up stones in the liver as well. And as mentioned, I do think a lot of the stones that we see come out of people actually originate in the liver. And regarding this warning, I actually think that the first time I did the liver flush, this might have happened to me, because the schedule is supposed to go that you take the concoctions on your first day, you take a couple more in the morning when you wake up on the second day, and the flush is supposed to happen immediately. But myself and a few other people now have had to wait until day 3 to see the flush. So my first time, I was just sitting around all of day 2, just waiting for something to happen, drinking lots of water, feeling bloated, feeling uncomfortable. And I do think that might have been what was happening, because I did have some very large stones come out. They might have really had a hard time working their way down through the bile duct. And I didn't panic or anything. I just hung around, drank water, and waited until the 3rd day when it finally did happen. And I already mentioned that this is a very tough process on the body, so that is in the risk category. You do want to stay extra topped up on your nutrients before this and during it. Stay hydrated, because this is essentially a form of diarrhea. And anytime you have diarrhea, you are going to be losing not just fluids, but you're going to be losing electrolyte nutrients as well. So you want to stay topped up on your salts, your calcium, your potassium, your magnesium, your B vitamins. All of that will lessen the depletion that's going on during this flush. So people ask, should I take my supplements while I'm doing this? My answer is yes. In fact, if you can take extra, do that, especially with the B vitamins and electrolytes. And since it is such a tough process on the body, this is why I don't recommend it for people who are too young, too old, or too frail. And I don't like to really put an age cap on it, but just generally, if you're under 18, I'm probably not going to recommend it, although I have for a couple of younger people in certain circumstances. And if you're too old as well. But there's flexibility there. There's people who are in their 70s who are very, very vigorous, strong, in good shape, and physically healthy. And there are some people who are 50 years old who are in terrible shape. They're super frail and weak. They should not do it. This is something that you should use your judgment on. And we are hoping that within 3 or 4 months on our program, you are stronger and more vigorous. And it might even take you 6 months. Maybe you were very, very underweight or something like that. It might take you 6 months to become strong enough to do this. You are going to have to judge that for yourself. There are 20-year-olds who are incredibly frail and they should not do this. And if you're on chemotherapy or something like that, again, wait until you're strong and vigorous enough to do this. If you're pregnant or nursing, this is a no-go. You got to wait until you're done nursing. And typically, I don't recommend it if you have had your gallbladder removed, but I might not be valid in thinking that because when they remove your gallbladder, they basically just connect your liver directly to the intestine. So any stones that are in the liver should still come out. I am still hesitant to recommend it to people with a missing gallbladder, but theoretically, it should still be essentially the same thing, flushing out the liver. And keep in mind, if you had your gallbladder removed, then you probably already had stones in the gallbladder to begin with, which was a good sign that the liver was already producing stones back then. There's probably still stones in the liver. And after you drink the concoctions, by the way, it is possible to have some nausea, some abdominal pain, or bloating. I definitely had some bloating both times that I did this. I'm not used to feeling bloated. It can be uncomfortable. But once the flush actually happens, those symptoms should go away. Just be aware, if you start to feel nauseous or something after you take the first concoction or the second one or the third one, have some more water, put some salt in it as well, which is a great way to reduce nausea in general quickly. And if you do have an electrolyte drink or something like that, or some of our products like Tangy Tangerine or OsteoFX, you can have a bit of that at that time. That should also reduce the nausea. Most people do not have anything significant like that. Some people do throw up from it, but it usually does go pretty smooth for most people. And now we can get to how to do it. Over the years, I have seen many recipes for a liver flush. Some of them are like long-term liver detoxes, like you take certain concoctions every day for a month or more, and that's supposed to slowly detox your liver, in quotes. But it's not really a flush to me. And even certain recipes that do say they will cause a flush, like it might just be drinking a bunch of olive oil and lemon juice, I just really haven't seen it work very well. So I'm not actually recommending that. Now, if something can be done without a package, without products, I'm all for it. But I just honestly haven't seen anywhere near as good results as I have with this package here. We have two versions of this package. The difference, first of all, is price. This basic package, the Liver Pure, which of course, if you're already a customer of ours, you can order using your own longevity accounts, using your auto ship, or however it is that you buy your products. But I do recommend using your own account, and I just made this video recently to explain why you should use your own account if you don't already. And if you're not a customer of ours already, then I do not recommend that you buy this right away. I recommend that you contact us, contact one of our coaches in the description on our contact page, fill out the questionnaire, send it to one of them, and get started, because this is not step one. As mentioned, this is 3 or 4 months into the program. And when I did mine recently, I actually just used this package here, the cheaper one, because I already actually had the True Cleanse at my house, which is basically an antioxidant product. There's a whole bunch of herbs in here. Most of these are well known to support the liver in the first place. And I do think it's a good idea to use this. Most of the time when I've ever recommended this, I use the whole pack. And it also has enzymes in here as well. So just know that if you are going to use the smaller pack, you do want to increase your enzymes every day during this 30 days. And you do want to increase your antioxidants. So you don't necessarily have to use the TrueZyme product. You can use another one of our enzyme products, like Ultimate Enzymes or Microbiome or Nightly Essence and others that we have as well. Just you want to be increasing more enzymes and more probiotics, because TrueZyme also has probiotics in it. And that's just a good general rule for life, actually, but especially during this 30 days here. Extra enzymes, extra probiotics, extra antioxidants. And this does come with a calendar, by the way, with detailed instructions of how to prepare the drinks. There's 2 drinks here, Liver Prep and Liver Clean. Tells you how to prepare them and exactly when to drink them. And you can also just Google it. I Googled True to Life 30-Day Detox. I'll put this in the description as well. This website has a good calendar here. This is the short version of the calendar. There's a more detailed one in the package. And really, most of the action here is in day 1 and 2. unless you're like me and you had to wait till day 3 to get your flush. So very generally, it recommends eating a light, non-fat breakfast and lunch. And in this case, non-fat is important, or very low fat is important. We're pro-fat normally. We recommend eating fat. Fat is very important in the diet. But the liver deals with fat. So we want to take pressure off of the liver this month. This is the idea. So I do recommend no red meat during this month. And I love red meat. I know, I get it for a lot of people. They're very reliant on red meat, but you want leaner meats during this month. Chicken, turkey, even pork, if that's your thing. If you eat 12 eggs a day, you want to go easy on the eggs. You want lots of salads, lots of vegetables. Fruits are fine as well. Broths. And this is a great time to do some fasting, actually. You could pick several days on this calendar to do a fast, but definitely on day 2, there is no food. After lunch on day 1, there's no food all the way until day 3. And if you have to wait until day 3 to get your flush, you don't want to eat that day either. Lots of fluids, take it easy. I recommend doing this on a weekend, right? So day 1 is Friday for you basically, and you have no plans on day 2. You're not going to a wedding, you're not going to a barbecue, and you want to have day 3 reserved as well, just in case. So you eat a light breakfast and lunch on day 1, you take one of the enzymes, you have no more food after 2 p.m., you mix your drinks, and you take your first serving of the liver prep at 6 p.m. Another 2 hours later, you take another serving of it. And 2 hours after that, you drink the liver clean drink. And you definitely want to put the lemon in there. And actually, the calendar in the package recommends that you mix this with organic apple juice. And I strongly recommend that. Either apple juice or grapefruit juice, because this does not taste good. Everyone agrees who has ever done this that they're very, very glad they used the apple juice. And after you take that last drink, you are instructed to go directly to bed, to lay on your right side in the fetal position. So you're putting pressure on your liver, which is on the right side. You're crunching it in. And actually, there are some people who start the flush like right after they take this drink. They don't even have to sleep. There are quite a few other people who wake up in the middle of the night, and that's when their flush begins, 2 a.m. or something like that. But for most people, they wake up in the morning, they take another one of the enzymes. You're taking enzymes twice a day here for the whole 30 days. And you take another serving of the liver prep, because when you mix up this liver prep, you do it in a measuring cup. So you make 24 ounces of it. That gives you 4 servings. You do 2 the first day. You do 1 as soon as you wake up on day 2. And if you have not started flushing yet, you also take your final serving a couple hours after waking. For most people, they don't need that final serving. They've already begun the flush. But a lot of us do just drink that anyways. We figure, why not? Doesn't really matter. You don't have to if you've started your flush, which should be happening by now. Now, on this calendar, a lot of people ask, they say, well, what are they talking about with this shake? And there's a detox tea on here as well sometimes. What's going on? I've never used the extended package, and I know the packaging has changed here. This is what they look like now. This is an older picture here. But this one has the meal replacement shake in it. And there's also the detox tea. Again, I've never used these. You can if you want. I'm not stopping you. But I know that the normal kit works very well. And you can achieve the flush with just the basic ingredients here, which is the most cost-effective way to do it. So you can ignore the shakes, but actually this time when I did it, I used the shakes. I already have one of our shakes, and it is a good way to just lessen the overall calories. Again, you want to go easy on your liver this month. And on day 2, I actually recommend no food at all. I actually recommend no shake at all. No food, nothing. And you do want to take your first serving of your antioxidant drink on day number 2 after your flush. And if you don't use the True Cleanse, then use another antioxidant product. Maybe you have the Tangy Tangerine tablets. Go ahead and take an extra one that day. Maybe you have the Premium Muscadine Grape. Whatever antioxidant product you have, take it on day 2. And if you don't have the True Cleanse, then any of these days that say to take your True Cleanse, take your extra antioxidants. But honestly, it's a good idea to take antioxidants all the way through this month. That's what I recommend. And the rest of the month is Pretty simple, actually. You're taking 2 enzymes a day. You're eating lean as possible. You can fast on some of these days. This calendar here does recommend jumping rope or exercising in some way. That is up to you. But there's no more action. After the flush is done, this really shouldn't interfere with your schedule anymore. It's really only those first 3 days that you want to keep blocked off. You can work on day one. You start taking your concoctions in the evening. Make sure not to book anything on day 2 or 3. And when you do start your flush, by the way, you probably will be running to the bathroom. There'll be a lot of liquid coming out. Hopefully you do use the strainer so you can see what comes out. I know it's kind of gross, but it's also very interesting. And it's kind of weird. People go around showing their friends and family pictures of their strainer. Say, hey, look what came out of me. It is kind of crazy. You wonder how all that stuff fit in your liver and gallbladder. So lots of liquids will be coming out of you. You definitely want to drink more liquids in between bathroom breaks. Usually it's 3 or 4 times you're going back and forth to the bathroom, drinking lots of water, back to the bathroom, drinking more water, back to the bathroom. And for most people, the flush is done before lunch on day 2, even though you should not eat lunch on day 2. Do not eat anything on day 2. Some people, it can last longer. They can have 2 or 5 flushing sessions in the morning and they think it's all done, but then a couple hours later, they're back in the bathroom doing it again. Should not be painful or anything like that. It's a bit of a strange feeling, actually. Most of us are used to having diarrhea if we're like sick or have food poisoning or something like that. So it's odd to be having a fire hose coming out the back end, but you don't feel sick at all. So just saying, don't expect to feel bad doing this. In fact, it feels very good to get it all out. And again, one of the most common things we hear is, wow, I feel light. I feel great after the flush. And that is pretty much the extent of what you should expect. You're going easy this month. You're not going to buffets. You're not eating filet mignon steak. Taking it easy, doing some fasting, having some light meals, doing some exercise if you can. Sleep, rest, restore, take enzymes, take extra antioxidants. And that's pretty much it. And by the way, something that comes up sometimes, they say, why is there oil in this product? Well, normally we are against oil, but to my knowledge, there is no way to produce a liver flush without oil. Most of the recipes you'll see online, if you look it up, they do use olive oil. Some of them use other oils, but that is one of the key ingredients to actually producing the flush. And I do like this mixture, by the way, because of the vitamin E oil in it, which greatly reduces the oxidation of the oil. But either way, in this case, we're using it for the purpose of a flush, and there is no other way to get a flush without the oil. And you've probably seen other liver detox products, by the way. Most of them are herbs. Some of the most common here are milk thistle and dandelion, which are in here, of course. But herbs will not produce a flush. They're usually promoted as a detox. And yes, these herbs will support the liver, but it just does not produce a flush. So it's not the same thing. And in general, a lot of people are overdoing herbs. Herbs are very powerful. Most of the time, they should be taken in low doses, in my opinion, especially the doses that you get in a culinary fashion when you use herbs and spices for cooking. And we do have relatively low doses of herbs in many of our different products. I'm just saying a lot of people know that the liver is very important and they want to detox their liver. So they take quite large doses of herbs, often for quite a long time. And I do not recommend that. You can have a healthy liver by taking the 90 essential nutrients in general, staying off of processed foods in general, going easy on alcohol in general, and when your body is ready, doing a liver flush periodically. And I do recommend this. If anyone has been on the program for longer than 4 months, I think you should do this. Even if you have gotten the results that you wanted. Like me, I got my results, but I still felt better after doing the liver flush. And especially for people who are still having trouble losing weight, or they still have any symptoms that have just not gone away, particularly skin problems. Skin problems are usually pretty easy for us. Usually you just get off the bad foods, get on the 90. Honestly, most skin problems go away just from eliminating gluten, processed foods in general. But without the bad foods and on the 90, if your skin's not getting better, to me, that is a big sign that your liver is under functioning. So this is something that you should consider doing. If you're stuffed up all the time, you've still got a runny nose, lots of mucus, anything like that, this should help it out a lot. Some of these symptoms can go right away after doing the liver flush. And I started recommending this to all the difficult cases. I call it a difficult case if they haven't gotten the expected result within a few months. And since I have been reintroducing this, I have been seeing some awesome things. Don't underestimate the power of the liver or how much an underfunctioning liver can really affect you. And if you're already feeling good, this might take you to the next level. And that about does it for today, guys. I do appreciate you. You can let me know in the comments or reach out any other way about other topics you'd like me to cover here. Make sure to follow us on all the channels. We're most active on Instagram. We're becoming more active on TikTok now as well, and Facebook. All these links are in the description. I do have a podcast where I release at least one episode a week. Most of them are about health. You can find that in the description. And I do actually post most of those video versions to my other YouTube channel, The Real Notice, which is also in the description. So check that out for much more detailed health information. Get your daily dose on the other social media channels. Let me know what happens with your liver flush if you do this. Take pictures of it for your own records. And I appreciate you guys. Stay healthy, my friends. Until next time.